Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to be looking at some really interesting ideas about how listening to English can actually help you become more fluent.
Oh, interesting.
We're diving into the English Learner's Corner podcast.
Cool.
It's a podcast that is specifically designed for English language learners. And they've got some really cool tips
Yeah.
about how to use things like podcasts and videos and things that are audio or have an audio component to them to help boost your English skills.
Right. And English Learner's Corner, they talk about, I think, something that we often forget, which is just how powerful simply listening to English can be.
Yeah.
You don't have to understand every word right away. The idea is just to immerse yourself in those sounds, those rhythms, and it actually makes a big difference.
Right. Like how babies learn, right?
Exactly.
Babies, they're just listening all the time before they ever say anything.
Yeah, and it turns out our brains, they're naturally wired to absorb language just by being exposed to it.
Oh, wow.
And even if you're not actively studying or translating, this passive listening, you know what I mean?
Right.
It builds a foundation for everything else you want to do, like speaking more fluently, pronunciation, vocabulary, even understanding those cultural nuances.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
The transcript we have for this episode, it specifically mentions some of the benefits. Getting used to the sounds, understanding the context of conversations, improving your speaking, and just learning new words more naturally.
Right.
Can you break some of that down for us? How does that all actually work?
Let's start with getting used to the sounds.
Yeah.
So when you listen regularly to English, your ear starts to recognize those specific sounds, those patterns, those intonation patterns.
Right.
Almost like you're tuning your ear to the music of the language. And the more you become familiar with those sounds, the easier it is to produce them yourself when you speak.
It's like training your ears to be these super detectives
Yeah, exactly.
for English sounds.
Yeah.
So you can pick up on those little subtle differences
Right.
that can make such a big impact, you know?
Right, exactly. And then there's context. You know, even in your native language, you don't always need to know the exact definition of every word
Right.
to understand. You use the surrounding words and the situation to figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
And the same thing applies when you're listening to English.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely noticed that I've been able to, even if I hear a word I've never heard before, just being able to use the context clues around it, I can sometimes figure out generally what it means.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a key skill for improving your comprehension.
Okay.
Now, how about improving your speaking?
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you about that one. Because I thought the only way to get better at speaking was by speaking.
Well, speaking practice is definitely important.
Okay.
But listening, it plays a crucial role as well.
Okay.
Because think about it this way. The more you listen to native speakers, the more you're unconsciously absorbing their pronunciation, their intonation, common phrases. It's almost like your brain is taking notes in the background
Okay.
and learning by osmosis.
Wow.
And then when you speak, it just comes out more naturally.
Wow. So even without actively speaking, listening is helping to kind of shape the way that we speak, almost like our brains are just always on learning from what we hear around us.
Exactly. And then there's learning new words.
Okay.
Every time you hear a new word in a sentence in context,
Yeah.
it's like you're planting a seed. Even if you don't stop and look it up right then, you're getting a sense of how that word is used, what it generally means. And then when you hear it again and again, those seeds start to grow.
Okay.
And eventually it becomes part of your vocabulary, your active vocabulary.
So that passively expanding your vocabulary just by listening to things.
Exactly.
That's great news for those of us that like listening to podcasts and watching movies and things like that.
And speaking of different ways to listen, English Learner's Corner, they talk about 3 main types of listening.
Okay.
Extensive listening, intensive listening, and interactive listening.
Okay, that's cool.
Almost like having different tools in your toolbox for different listening tasks.
I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So let's start with extensive listening.
Okay.
Imagine you're just relaxing with an audiobook, or maybe you're really into a podcast series.
Okay.
That's extensive listening. Just enjoying the content, absorbing the language gradually over time. The key is to choose material that you genuinely enjoy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like work.
So like watching my favorite TV show in English, that would count.
Absolutely.
Okay, awesome.
Then, you don't have to understand every single word.
Yeah.
It's more about just getting a feel for the flow of the language, picking up new vocabulary organically, and just having fun.
Awesome, I like it. It's like the no pressure, just enjoyment kind of approach.
Exactly.
What about intensive listening?
Okay, so intensive listening is more focused, more deliberate. It's like putting your listening skills under a microscope.
Oh, okay.
So imagine you're listening to like a short news clip or maybe a dialogue,
Okay.
and you're really trying to understand every detail, every single word, every grammatical structure.
Oh, okay.
It's like a workout for your ears and your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about actively trying to dissect the language, I guess.
Yes.
To really understand those intricacies.
Yes. And it can be incredibly effective for expanding your vocabulary and understanding how grammar works in spoken English.
That makes a lot of sense. I
Okay.
can see how that would be really beneficial. What are some good ways to practice that?
Well, one tip is to use short audio clips,
Okay.
something that you can manage in one sitting.
Okay.
You can find tons of these online or even use the audio from textbooks or language learning apps. And the key is to listen multiple times.
Okay.
Really focus on understanding each word and phrase.
Okay.
You can even use a technique called shadowing.
Shadowing. What's that?
Yeah, where you repeat what the speaker is saying
Oh, wow.
immediately after them.
Okay.
So it forces you to really pay attention to the pronunciation and the rhythm.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I like that. I'll have to try that one. What else?
Another great technique is using transcripts.
Okay.
So first, listen without the transcript, and then listen again while you're reading along. And that helps you connect the sounds to the written words and catch anything you might have missed the first time.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. It's like, because sometimes, words kind of blend together when you're listening.
Yeah.
So if you can see it written down as you hear it,
Right.
it helps you to pick out those individual words.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So we've talked about extensive listening, which is more for enjoyment, and then intensive, which is more for like focused practice.
Right.
What about interactive listening?
Oh, yeah. So interactive listening is all about engaging in real-time conversations.
Yeah.
So that's when you're chatting with a friend in English, asking questions, sharing your thoughts,
Right.
being a part of that back and forth flow.
So that's like the most real world kind of listening.
Right. The
Yeah.
one that we actually need to be able to communicate
Okay.
in everyday situations.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely essential for developing fluency and confidence because, after all, language is a tool
Right.
for communication.
Yeah.
And interactive listening helps you use that tool effectively.
Makes sense. But what if you don't have, a lot of opportunities in your daily life to speak English? What are some ways that you can get some of that interactive listening practice?
Well, one fantastic way is finding a language partner or joining a language exchange group.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You can connect with native speakers, other learners, and practice having those real conversations.
That sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a fun way to kind of immerse yourself.
Right.
What else?
Language learning apps
Yeah.
are incredibly helpful. Okay. A lot of them have speaking and listening activities built right in
Okay.
and often use speech recognition technology
Oh, cool.
to give you feedback on your pronunciation.
Awesome. Yeah. And apps are so convenient because you can just use them wherever, whenever.
Right, exactly. And remember, don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Right.
It's all part of the process.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So we've talked about these three, really powerful tools for improving your English listening skills: extensive listening, intensive listening, and interactive listening.
Right.
What about the actual resources that we can use
Yeah.
to practice?
Well, we are so lucky to live in this digital age where we have access to so many different tools. And the English Learners Corner podcast highlights some of the best ones.
Awesome.
Podcasts, for example, are just a goldmine.
Yeah, I love podcasts. Always looking for new ones. What do you recommend?
Well, there are some that are designed specifically for English learners,
Oh, cool.
like English Pod 101,
Okay.
The English We Speak, All Ears English.
Ooh.
And they cover a wide range of topics, from grammar and vocabulary to pronunciation, cultural insights.
Right.
And they're tailored to different levels from beginner to advanced.
Wow. So there's something out there for everyone.
Yeah.
Cool. What about YouTube? Because I bet there's a lot on YouTube, right?
Oh, tons. YouTube is an incredible resource. You've got channels like English Addict with Mr. Duncan, BBC Learning English,
Okay.
Rachel's English. They're fantastic for learning, grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation.
Right.
And what's great about YouTube is it's visual, so you can actually see the speaker's mouth movements,
Right.
which is really helpful for understanding pronunciation.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of videos have subtitles so you can follow along.
Yeah, I love that visual element.
Yeah.
Because it just makes it so much easier to remember. It's like you're connecting those sounds with actually how to form the words.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so we've got podcasts, we've got YouTube. What about language learning apps?
Oh, yeah, language learning apps. Apps like Duolingo, Babbel, Rosetta Stone are great for more structured learning. They have interactive lessons, quizzes, games, so it makes it fun.
Okay.
And then there are apps like HelloTalk and Tandem, and these are designed specifically for connecting with native speakers.
Oh, cool.
So you can have like text conversations, voice calls, video chats with people all over the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So it's like having almost like a personal tutor right in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. So we've got apps. What else?
How about audiobooks?
Audiobooks. Oh, yeah.
They offer these immersive listening experiences.
Right.
And a lot of them come with a text version.
Okay.
So you can read along
Awesome.
for support if you need to.
Yeah, I love audiobooks. Those are great for just like relaxing at home or on a commute or something.
Yeah.
What about something more structured, like online courses?
Oh, online courses are great if you want a more systematic approach to learning. Platforms like Coursera, edX, Udemy, they offer a wide range of English language courses,
Oh, wow.
including a lot that focus on listening comprehension specifically.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they often have video lectures, interactive exercises, and even opportunities to connect with other learners.
Cool.
Yeah,
Wow. So there's a lot of resources out there.
there are.
But with so many options, it can feel a little overwhelming.
Right.
So how do we use these things effectively?
Well, the key is to be intentional and have a strategy.
Okay.
So first, you want to set specific goals.
Okay.
What do you want to achieve with your listening practice? Do you want to be able to, understand everyday conversations, follow movies and TV shows, maybe take an English proficiency exam?
Yeah.
Having that clear goal will help you choose the right resources and stay motivated.
Right. So it's like having, like a roadmap.
Exactly.
If you know where you're going.
Exactly.
It makes it easier to figure out how to get there.
Right. Another tip is to mix things up. So don't just stick to one type of resource.
Okay.
Listen to a podcast one day, watch a YouTube video the next, try some interactive exercises on a language learning app.
Yeah.
That variety will keep things interesting and expose you to, different accents, different topics, different styles of speaking.
It's like having a buffet.
Exactly.
Language learning. You get to sample everything.
Exactly. And one more crucial tip. Actively engage with the material.
Okay.
So don't just let the sounds wash over you.
Okay.
Take notes, summarize what you've heard, discuss it with a friend.
Yeah.
That active engagement helps you process the information more deeply and remember it better.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like the difference between, just passively watching a lecture
Yeah.
and then actually participating in a discussion.
Exactly. You become an active participant in the learning process.
Right.
Yeah.
All of that's really good advice.
Yeah.
I'm already feeling kind of inspired to step up my listening game.
Good.
But I have to admit, listening comprehension can be tough, especially as you get a little more advanced. It can be easy to get discouraged
Right.
when you encounter, those tricky words and the fast speech and different accents.
Well, you're right. It is a skill that takes time and effort to develop.
Okay.
But the good news is, even the most challenging aspects of listening can be overcome
Okay.
with the right strategies.
Okay.
And English Learner's Corner has some great insights into how to tackle some of the most common obstacles that people face.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into those then. Let's talk about some of the challenges and how to tackle them.
Well, one of the biggest hurdles for a lot of learners is fast speech.
Oh, yeah.
Native speakers can talk really fast,
Yeah.
and it can leave learners feeling completely lost.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Sometimes it feels like they're speaking a completely different language.
Yeah.
It can be so discouraging when you can't keep up. What can you do about that?
Well, one effective strategy is to start with slow and clear audio, and then gradually increase the speed as you get more comfortable.
Okay.
A lot of language learning apps and websites, they actually let you adjust the playback speed.
Oh, okay.
So you can find a pace that's challenging but not overwhelming.
Okay, that's a good tip. It's like easing yourself in
Exactly.
instead of just like jumping in the deep end.
Right.
What about unfamiliar vocabulary? Because that's something I struggle with too. It feels like I'm constantly running into words I don't know.
Well, that's a common experience,
Yeah.
and it can be incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
But you can use context clues to your advantage. Pay close attention to the words and sentences around the word you don't know.
Okay.
They often give you hints
Right.
about the meaning.
So it's like being a detective.
Exactly.
and using the clues
Right.
to figure out the meaning.
And don't be afraid to make educated guesses.
Okay.
You'll be surprised how often you can figure out the general meaning, even if you've never seen the word before.
Okay, that's good. That makes me feel a little less intimidated.
Yeah.
When I run into those words, I don't know. Are there any other tips for dealing with unfamiliar vocabulary?
Make it a habit of writing down new words that you come across,
Okay.
and then you can look them up later.
Okay.
You can even make a vocabulary journal
Oh, okay.
where you list the word, its definition, and maybe even write an example sentence.
Oh, I like that. It's like making your own little dictionary.
Yeah, exactly. That active engagement helps you remember it better.
Makes sense. Okay, what about background noise? That can be tough.
Oh, background noise can be so distracting.
Yeah, especially like if you're in a public place or something
Right.
and you're trying to listen. It's like there's all this other stuff going on.
Well, one strategy is to practice listening in different environments.
Oh, okay.
So start in a quiet place where you can really focus, and then gradually introduce more background noise,
Oh, okay.
like a cafe or a park.
Yeah.
That helps train your ear to filter out those distractions.
So it's like you're desensitizing yourself
Exactly.
to distractions. Okay.
And noise-canceling headphones can be a lifesaver.
Yeah, that's a good tip.
Yeah, they block out unwanted sounds so you can focus on what you want to hear.
Yeah. Never thought of using those for language learning before, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What about some like active listening techniques?
Yeah.
Are there specific things you can do?
So active listening is about engaging with the audio, not just passively hearing it.
Okay.
So one technique is mental repetition.
Okay.
So as you're listening, try to repeat what you hear in your mind.
Oh, okay.
That helps you process those sounds and words more deeply.
So it's like you're echoing
Exactly.
the speaker.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
Another helpful technique is mental summarizing.
Okay.
So after you listen to a short segment, try to summarize the main points in your mind.
Okay.
Maybe even jot them down if you want. That forces you to actively process the information and check your understanding.
So it's all about being present.
Yeah. And attentive.
Yes.
Not just letting the words, in one ear and out the other.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, before, earlier we were talking about different accents and dialects being a challenge. I know English Learner's Corner talks about that, right?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so.
English is spoken with a fascinating array of accents and dialects all over the world.
Yeah.
And that diversity, it's enriching and it's beautiful, but it can also be a challenge for learners who are used to hearing only one or two accents.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it does feel like I'm listening to a totally different language when I encounter a new accent.
Right.
So how do we get better at that? How do we train our ears to be able to, understand all these different accents?
Well, the key is exposure.
Okay.
The more you listen to a variety of accents,
Yeah.
the more familiar you become with those unique sounds.
Okay.
And those pronunciation patterns.
Right.
So podcasts, movies, TV shows, YouTube videos are all fantastic for this.
Yeah, you can really immerse yourself in that world of English accent.
It's like expanding your sonic palette
Exactly.
and being able to appreciate all the different ways that English is spoken.
Right. And don't be afraid to focus on specific accents that you find challenging. So, if you know you're going to be traveling to a particular country or interacting with speakers of a certain accent, you can really immerse yourself in that accent.
Okay.
Through podcasts, movies, even language partners.
Oh, cool.
Like targeted training for your ears.
Awesome.
Yeah. Another helpful tip is to focus on the commonalities
Okay.
between accents
Okay.
rather than getting hung up on the differences.
Okay.
Despite the variations, there are core elements of pronunciation, and intonation
Okay.
that are shared across most English accents.
Okay.
So paying attention to those can help you build a really solid foundation for understanding.
That makes sense. It's like there's an underlying structure,
Right.
and then all these variations kind of build on top of that. What about idioms and slang?
Oh, idioms and slang.
Those can be tricky.
Yeah, they can be really tricky because they're those expressions
Right.
that are specific to a culture
Right.
or a region.
Yeah.
And often they don't translate literally,
Right.
which can make them confusing.
It's like deciphering a secret language sometimes.
Exactly.
So how do you crack the code of idioms and slang?
Well, one strategy is to make a conscious effort to learn common idioms and slang phrases.
Okay.
There are a lot of resources online, websites, dictionaries, even apps
Right.
dedicated to idioms and slang.
Okay, so it's good to actively study
Yeah,
those, not just hope to pick them up naturally.
right. But it's also important to learn them in context. So watching movies and TV shows is a great way to see how these idioms are used naturally in conversations.
Oh, okay.
You understand the nuances, how they fit in.
So it's not just about memorizing lists of these expressions. It's about seeing how they're actually used
Exactly.
in real life situations.
Right.
It's like, learning how to play a game by watching people play.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to try using them yourself.
Oh,
In conversations, the more you practice, the more natural it will become.
okay. That's good advice.
Yeah.
It can be a little daunting sometimes.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's just about, starting small and building up your comfort level.
exactly.
This has been incredibly helpful. It
It's
feels
so-
like we've just uncovered all these great strategies
Yeah.
for overcoming these listening challenges.
Yeah.
And it's encouraging because, it can feel daunting sometimes.
Right.
But it's like it is possible.
Yes, it is. And remember, practice is key. Consistent effort is what really makes the difference. It's like any skill, The more you practice, the better you get.
Yeah.
And the journey of learning a language, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So be patient, enjoy the process, and celebrate your progress along the way.
That's great advice.
Mm.
I'm feeling motivated to put all this into action and keep pushing forward on my English learning journey. Is there anything else that English Learners Corner emphasizes as being really important for listening success?
One of the most important things is that listening isn't just about understanding words, it's about connecting with people
Yeah.
and cultures.
Yeah.
It's about opening yourself up to different perspectives, different ideas, different ways of life.
I like that. It's like it opens up a window
Yeah.
into, all these different worlds and just expands your understanding.
Exactly. When you listen to English, you're not just absorbing the language. You're engaging with cultures, with ideas, with different ways of thinking.
Right.
And it just helps you understand the world around you better.
Yeah, it's like going on an adventure
Exactly.
through sound.
Exactly.
It's awesome. Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive. We've explored the science behind listening. We've talked about these different types of listening, and we've got all these strategies now
Yeah.
for overcoming these common challenges that people face.
Right.
And just this overall message that it's about so much more than just understanding words. It's about connecting with the world around you
Exactly.
and expanding your understanding of humanity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So keep listening, keep exploring, and keep expanding your world through English.
Love it.
It really is. And it makes you want to keep learning.
Right? It does. It does.
And remember that the journey is just as important as the destination.
Right.
Enjoy the process, discovering those new sounds and those words and ideas, and embrace the challenge.
Yeah. It's about savoring the experience.
Yes.
And not getting too caught up in just trying to get to that end goal,
Right.
It's like appreciate those moments when you suddenly understand something you didn't before.
Exactly. And those happen more and more often.
Yeah.
The more you practice listening.
Makes sense?
It's like you're exercising a muscle.
Right.
The more you use it,
The stronger it gets.
the stronger it gets. Exactly.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive.
Yeah, it has.
We've explored the science behind listening. We've uncovered these different types of listening, and we've learned all these practical strategies
Yeah.
for overcoming those common challenges that people face.
Right.
And I think most importantly, just this overall message that it's so much more than just understanding the words.
Right.
It's about connecting with the world around you
Yes.
and expanding your understanding of humanity, really.
I couldn't have said it better myself. So keep listening, keep exploring, and keep expanding your world through English.
I love it. Absolutely. And enjoy the process of, discovering those new words, those sounds, new ideas.
Yeah.
Embrace the challenge.
Yeah. And, the more you practice, the more those aha moments will come where you suddenly understand something that you didn't before.
Right, exactly.
And that's what makes it so rewarding.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. We've explored the science behind listening. We've uncovered all these different types of listening and learned all these practical strategies for overcoming the challenges that a lot of people face.
Yeah.
And, most importantly, just this reminder that listening is about so much more than just understanding words.
Yeah.
It's about connecting with the world around us and
Yeah.
expanding our understanding of humanity.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So keep listening, keep exploring, keep expanding your world through English.
Love it. And that's a wrap on another episode of The Deep Dive.
Awesome.
We hope you enjoyed this journey into the world of English learning through listening.
Yes.
Until next time, keep those ears open and those minds engaged.
Yeah.